Well, hello. Welcome to the Work Positive Community's monthly live experience. I'm Dr. Joey Fawcett. If this is your very first time joining the Work Positive Community for these monthly live experiences, just a little bit about me. I'm a firstborn son. I'm a brother to a brother. Husband to one wife for 43 years. I'm girl dad to two phenomenal young women. Girl pops to two delightful granddaughters who are almost 6 years old, Pops, she's fond of telling me. And then also a 6-month-old who's bringing lots of joy into our lives right now. Also, I'm a best-selling author. In fact, my latest book hit #1 in 3 Amazon categories this very morning. I'm a positive culture architect. I'm host of the weekly Work Positive podcast and share the Work Positive newsletter weekly as well. I want to invite you to stay with me to the end of our time together. I have 2 free gifts for you, plus I have an opportunity that's guaranteed to transform your work culture and you in miraculous ways for a lifetime. And isn't it that's the way it happens? It transforms work culture and transforms you. I am so glad, so very humbled that you chose to join us today. And I am grateful and thankful for this opportunity to be with you, especially to those of you who are live. Appreciate you being here live. If you're watching the recording, also thank you for the gift of your time. So let me ask you this question. Our theme today is how you can stop the revolving door and retain top talent today. So let me ask you a question about that. Are you tired? Okay, not just generally because you haven't had enough coffee, but are you tired of watching your best people walk out the door? Just drop a yes in the comments right now if you're tired of watching your best people walk out the door. Have you spent thousands? Go ahead and drop a comment in there. Have you spent thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars recruiting and training someone only to see them leave for a competitor who offered maybe, say, a slightly better title or a little more money? Put a yes in the comments if you have. Anybody just exhausted today? The revolving door of hire, train, and exit is worn you down, man. The starting over and wondering what you're doing wrong is just relentless, isn't it? Drop a yes in the comments if that's you. I want you to know today that you're not alone. If not, most people, leaders are just like you. But the good news today that I'm bringing you is it doesn't have to be this way. And that's what we're talking about today, how you can do better, how you can stop that revolving door, how you can retain top talent today. The purpose of our time today is to give you practical strategies and tactics, because that's what we're all about here in the Work Positive community, things that work at work. Practical strategies and tactics to stop your revolving door that's in your work culture. I think of it as a revolving back door so that you retain your top talent. So here's some of what you're going to discover in our hour together today. Why 68% of employees leave for reasons that have nothing to do with money and what they look for that you can provide. Secondly, we're going to talk about practical strategies from 8 proven culture architects, people leaders, plus myself and my 40 years of experience who have transformed retention in industries all the way from healthcare to blue collar trades to global consulting. We're also going to talk about, thirdly, what a proper onboarding, just alone, proper onboarding can do to increase your retention by 50% and accelerate productivity of your folks by 60%. We're going to talk fourthly today about that one question that predicts engagement 6 times better than any other metric. And no, it's not about money. And fifth and final, we're going to talk today about why empathetic leadership adds 2.5 years to how long employees picture themselves staying with your company. So that's what we're going to talk about today, how to stop the revolving door, how to retain top talent today. And if you have been on one of these before or read any of my little books before, I love to use acronyms because that's a mnemonic device that triggers our memories best and fires those neurons, right? So this month, we're using the word retain, RETAIN, as our acronym. I know that for some of you, I'm from the South in the US, and so when I say words, sometimes I need to spell them. So retain, RETAIN, is our acronym today. We're going to retain top talent today. So let's first talk about the R in retain. The R in retain is for realign to retain. Current alignments in most of our companies have pretty much a singular focus, and that's on the financial metric: how much revenue, how much profit. Now, financial metrics are super important. Your organization must be sustainable. But here's the reality: we spend so much time talking about the financial capital that we miss the human capital side of this equation, because we're myopic around the financial metric and we're missing the financial capital and we're missing the human capital. We must grow people to grow profits. It's grow people and grow profits, not or profits. It's not a forced choice. It's an and. Darren Tully is a good friend of mine. I had him on the Work Positive podcast. He described an awakening about how people and profits must balance. Or another way of thinking about it is how happiness, people, and performance, profits, must be balanced. He had this awakening at a workshop where he spent 4 days genuinely getting to know his colleagues, all of whom were different from Darren. And he told me on the podcast that by day 3, something broke open inside of him, his words. He realized he lived in a bubble of sameness, he called it. That is, he was hiring people like himself, and he was missing perspectives that could have made his team so much stronger. So he was making hires based on the financial capital metric as opposed to balancing that with the human capital metric. So here's how Darren described his experience about this awakening when I interviewed him on the Work Positive podcast.
I was not only holding back other people's possibilities, I was actually holding back my own.
Wow.
My own joy, my own
company too.
Opportunities. Yeah, in the company too. Absolutely. We did things we never thought we could do. There's a lot of proof from research about productivity is enhanced by over 15, even 20%, depending on the study, about happier employees are actually more productive. And when you focus on employee experiences, there are studies where folks are 4 times more profitable. Their nurse turnover has actually been cut in half from 27% down to 12%,
Wow.
Which with all the nursing shortages and burnouts that are going on in the industry, that's a pretty important number. And it costs about $50,000 per nurse to replace.
Yeah, so you hear Darren balancing the financial capital metric and the human capital metric. He's got his finger right on what happens when we realign to retain. The business reality is that for profits to grow, you must grow people. So that lesson's really clear. When you show the people they matter and they belong, the financials follow right along, right? The R in retain is for realign to retain. So I promised you strategies and tactics, because that's what we're all about here in the Work Positive community. So let's look at the retain action step that accompanies realign to retain. This week, I want you to identify one employee who's been with your organization for more than a couple of years. And it's an employee who's been with you more than a couple of years and performs well. Take them to coffee or to lunch or to tea, whatever it is that you enjoy doing. And avoid talking directly about work. Talk about them. Ask them questions which show interest in them, because all of our favorite subject is ourselves, right? We love to talk about ourselves. Then ask them 3 questions. And it's coming from a very personal orientation, because remember, we're balancing the human capital metric with financial capital metric. So just ask them these 3 questions. And you see these questions here. Ask them, what made you decide to stay here when you could have gone somewhere else? What made you decide to stay here when you could have gone somewhere else? You can secondly ask them, what's one thing we could do better as an organization? Opinions are, when you value someone else's opinion, you're really realigning to retain with that human capital side. What's one thing we could do better as an organization? And thirdly, ask them, what keeps you energized about your work? What keeps you energized about your work? Now, as you ask each of these questions, really listen, absorb. Then after you do it with that employee who's been with you a couple of years and performs well, do it with the rest of the team. I refer to it as lather, rinse, repeat, which if you look at my head, you might think I don't know much about shampoo, but anyway, I can read my wife's bottle in the shower. So these conversations can teach you more about how to stop the revolving door than any survey monkey that you could ever do. So which one of these 3 questions do you think is most important for you right now to ask in your own particular environment? Is it question 1, question 2, question 3? Just drop a 1, 2, or 3 in the comments right there as to which one you think is most important to your work culture right now that you could ask. Is it number 1, what made you decide to stay here when you could have gone somewhere else? Number 2, what's one thing we could do better as an organization? Or number 3, what keeps you energized about your work? Just drop a 1, 2, or 3 in your comments right there, and just see what other people are thinking about that. So we're balancing the financial capital metric with the human capital metric, and that we're realigning those so we're not myopic about the financial capital metric, right? That's the R in retain, realign to retain. So next we come to the E in retain. What E is for empathize to lead with heart. Empathize to lead with heart. The companies today that are retaining top talent best understand this fundamental truth about human beings. People don't jobs, they leave feelings. People don't leave jobs, they leave feelings. You with me? They leave, what do they leave? These feelings are they leaving? First of all, they leave feeling unseen. I've literally had employees tell me I'm invisible here. Secondly, they leave feeling unheard. Nobody listens to me. My voice is silent. Third, they leave feeling undervalued. I don't matter to anybody around here. They're not going to notice if I'm gone. Fourth, they leave feeling disconnected. I don't even know the people I work with. I don't know anyone. Fifth, they leave feeling purposeless. I'm not even sure why I ever came to work here. I mean, some of the statistics I read suggest that 50% of the people who make a change in the first 90 days, some surveys say 60 days, 50% of them say they wish they hadn't moved because I'm invisible, nobody listens to me, I don't matter, I don't know anyone, why am I here? Now, the beautiful news for you and me as people leaders is these feelings can be transformed, okay? We don't have to stay stuck there, we can do something about it. And empathizing to lead with heart is a key to that. Rob Volpe is an empathy activist. He refers to himself an empathy activist, and he shared with me a statistic on the Work Positive podcast that should alarm every one of us. Let's listen to Rob share this statistic, okay?
31% were unable to agree with the statement, I can easily see the point of view of somebody else. It's 1/3 of the adults you're going to run into today at work, at home, on the road, wherever you are. 1/3 of them are going to have trouble connecting and just seeing you as who you are and where you're coming from. Having an empathetic workplace leads to more retention. So there's more loyalty from the organization. People feel like they belong. There's more of a sense of inclusion and belonging. People are also able to be more innovative. They're able to problem solve when they have empathetic leadership.
Now, maybe you're like, come on, Dr. Joey, I get the empathy thing and it's important, but I'm just too busy to add one more thing like empathy to my list. I get that. In fact, Rob addressed this directly. He said he encountered a couple of managers who expressed that very concern. Let's listen to how Rob responded to those two managers.
31%. And it's in those moments where you think, I'm too busy, I'm so stressed. That's when you need to pause and take that curious breath, make the space to actually, and it's we're not talking about days or weeks. It can happen in milliseconds. Just choose to approach something differently. I got an email from some clients. I wasn't happy about it. And so what happened? You get an email and you feel like you're having a conversation, but you're really just communicating and you want to just like hit back right away and reply. And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that because I need to think about what I want to say and how I want to say it. And so I took it. And then, of course, that was Friday afternoon. This can wait till Monday. They don't need to hear from me immediately. And so I paused, and that gave me time in my head. It's like an exaggerated version of the curious breath. Through all the feelings I was having, I thought about different ways to respond and the outcome that I was hoping to achieve. And then on Monday, I was able to sit down and craft a better response that was much more open and going to.
Boy, I love that. I love Rob's phrase, curious breath. It just gives you an opportunity to express some empathy. I taught a course on the ethics of leadership for a major university for a time. And in there, I think his name, Stephen Phillips, was the author of Lincoln on Leadership. It's about Abraham Lincoln. And when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated following his death, they were cleaning out his desk. And they discovered in one particular drawer a huge stack of letters addressed to various persons who were critics of Lincoln. And so, of course, they were curious and opened some of those letters and discovered that these were letters that were, shall we say, responses, or more to the point, reactions to some of his critics. And they were not very kind letters. Well, what Lincoln had done was to express it, the cathartic act of writing a letter, sealed it up and put it in that drawer and never sent it. So good news is Lincoln had lived long enough to learn he didn't have to say or send everything he was thinking. So this whole activity of a curious breath, he took enough curious breaths to write a letter, right? This whole notion of a curious breath is your tactic to use with empathy. In fact, what I want to do is give you a specific way of applying curious breath. Whenever you want to ask someone, and this is your retain action step, the E is for empathize and lead with heart. Instead of asking someone, why did you do that? Rob offered 5 alternatives. And here at our company, Work Positive Today, we train coaches in the ICF 8 core competencies for coaching. We train coaches all over the world. And so this is one of our strategies for that coaching, to a tactic really for coaching better. Coaching with empathy, in fact, rarely use why. Just stop using the word why. And there are 5 alternatives. So use who, what, where, when, and how. For instance, let me give you an example. If you're tempted to ask, why did you miss that deadline? You hear the defensiveness. Okay, why put someone on the defensive? So instead, take that curious breath, rephrase it, and say, what happened with the timeline on that project? Now you're gathering the same information, but you're not putting the person on the defensive. You're asking them to just describe for you what happened. Or you could say, who helped you with that project? Where did the project derail? When did you experience a problem, a first problem with the project? How did that project go for you? You can really open it up to an open-ended question. There are lots of ways of asking it: who, what, where, when, and how, instead of why. And so you're gathering the same information, just a completely different emotional experience for your team member. And what you're doing right there is being very strategic. You're taking that curious breath and you're using empathy. In fact, there are some like Rob who suggests that empathy is your greatest weapon in the battle to stop that revolving door and retain top talent today. So let me just ask you, which one of those 5 reframed words is easiest for you to use right now to retain top talent? Instead of why, is it who, what, where, when, or how? Which one of those 5 words? Just drop that number in your comments there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As to which one you think you're most likely to use. Shelby, we appreciate you commenting there. Thanks so much. So the E in retain is for empathize to lead with heart. So we're realigning financial capital metrics and human capital metrics to retain. That's the R. The E is for empathize to lead with heart. The T in retain, this third strategy, is for take it to the limit. And yes, I'm old enough to remember when the Eagles first started playing as a band. And yes, I did steal the T here, take it to the limit, from one of their song titles. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go on YouTube. You'll find it there. Okay, here's the deal with take it to the limit. People give up time to come to work. What kind of time are they giving up? They're giving up family time, friend time, fun time. There are a lot of things they'd rather be doing oftentimes than coming to work in a typical non-work positive culture. If work doesn't offer them something of equal value for their time, like meaningful relationships, like purpose, like personal growth and development, they're going to resent the trade of their time, trading off work time for friend or family or friend fishing time. They're going to head for the revolving door because work has got to give them something meaningful. I think of this as an equity of exchange. So I'm trading time. I could be with family, friends, and having fun with work time, right? There's got to be some sort of equity of exchange here between the quality of life and work. And what happens is it gets out of balance really, really quickly, particularly when your culture is toxic, if I can use that word. The revolving door spins so fast in a toxic culture that it's really dizzying at times. And it's hard to tell the front door from the back door at that point. So when you take it to the limit, you want to at least slow down or stop that revolving door by making this equity of exchange in balance. Has a friend of mine, and he came on the Work Positive podcast. He has seen his fair share of toxic dynamics. In fact, that's sort of his specialty. He goes into toxic cultures and team conflict, helps them find a gracious way out. Steve's approach to transforming these cultures and taking it to the limit in the relationships with that in that toxic culture, it centers on this phrase: grace creates space. That's worthwhile to write down or to type into your notes. Grace creates space. Now, what does that mean practically in the workspace? Steve defined grace creates space for us on his Work Positive podcast episode. Here's the way he described it.
When you give a team the space to look at what isn't working and let their voices have value, not to gripe or complain, but to then be able to say, okay, what do we need to do to move forward, and how can we create some new agreements to do that? And so if we can give the other person a little bit more, ourselves some more grace, and other people some more grace, and create this, it's corny, but grace creates space, right? So it really gives you that opportunity just to hit the reset button.
I love that, man. I always need to find the reset button. Now, what I want you to do is combine Rob's and Steve's concepts here. Rob's for curious breath and Steve's for the grace creates space. So do you hear the space that Steve's talking about there for a curious breath or two? I don't know about you, but it takes grace for me. Spacious culture transformation is vital. It requires you and me as people leaders to extend grace first to ourselves and then to our teams. Perfectionism just isn't an option, at least not in the human experience. And what happens is perfection and procrastination travel together. So I don't ever quite get the job done because I'm trying to make it perfect. And that leads to toxicity because I resent you for not getting your project in on time and the product is delayed and it never happens. And so, or if the opposite but equal reaction happens and you start rushing, then mistakes happen. But when grace is present, not that we always overlook bad behavior, okay? That's not what we're talking about here. Just when grace is present, somebody's doing the best they can and it still came up short. When grace is present, then something magical happens. People feel safe enough to be honest. Hey, I didn't get this done. This is broken. And they feel brave enough to help fix it. That's the take it to the limit aspect of retaining top talent. I'm honest about what's broken and I'm brave enough to help fix it. It's broken. Here's what I think we can do to fix it. So here's what you want to do in taking it to the limit. Here's your retain action step for the T in retain, which is take it to the limit. This week, I want you to have a conversation with each of your direct reports about something that's not focused on tasks or deadlines or deliverables. Here's what I want you to talk with them about. Remember, we're taking it to the limit, right? This curious breath, and grace creates that space. 4 questions I want to suggest you ask. First, what are you passionate about outside of work? What are you passionate about outside of work? By the way, yes, I'm going to ask you to comment with a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So if you want to go ahead and do that, shall we? Thanks again. 2, what skills do you have that we're not using as a company? What skills do you have that we're not using as a company? 3rd, what would you love to learn? And 4th, what kind of work makes time fly for you? So give me a 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the comments there about which one of these questions is most important for you to ask right now to take it to the limit with the relationships that you have with people that you're leading. By the way, it's kind of my favorite because you get in the flow. And I refer to it as you just put your head down and you're working. And then suddenly you look up and 2 hours have passed, 3 hours have passed. That's time flying, right? After you get a response to each of these 4 questions, be sure to, and this is a critical part, be sure to do something with it. It's very disempowering, and it just overdraws your trust account in your relationships with the people that you lead when you hear something and don't act on it. So be sure to do something with it. Just find something to send them, even if it's just say they're passionate about baking bread, and go find an article to send to them from some famous bread baker with a recipe and some tips or something like that. Just send to it and show them some interest in who they are as a person. So that, my friend, is the T in retain, which is take it to the limit. So the R is, let me ask you a question. What if the key to growing your work culture hides in plain sight? Take the free Work Positive Culture Assessment to discover it. Get insights in less than 4 minutes that transform your culture so you grow people and profits. You just answer 13 simple questions and discover your culture stage, strengths, and personalized next steps. Get your free aha culture moment at workpositive.today. Go to workpositive.today right now. So the R is for what? Realign to retain. And here we're talking about realigning that balance between the financial capital metric and the human capital metric. The E is for empathize, to lead with heart. There we're talking about curious breath. Here, the T is for take it to the limit. We're using our curious breath to create some grace, right? Which makes for some space. So that brings us to the A in retain, which if there were one of these, I know I'm not supposed to pick favorites among my children, but if there were one of these elements in this particular framework, this is the one where I want you to sit up, pay attention, and do something with it. Here's your do one thing, right? Leandro Cartelli was a guest on the Work Positive podcast. He'd been talent attraction for Accenture. He's led talent attraction for some other global companies. He's my best friend in Argentina. Leandro, I love you, man. He told me in our Work Positive podcast conversation something about culture fit. And I want you to hear this in Leandro's words.
If you have individuals that are the right cultural fit, collaboration is likely to improve by over 50%, right? All of these things we didn't know. If you have the right cultural fit, you reduce turnover, right? By like 20 or 30%. Every time someone leaves the company, it costs a lot of money.
Did you catch that? You reduce turnover by 20 to 30% when you get the culture fit right. That's a big number. I mean, let's just do an application of that. If you're a company, say you got 100 employees, you're not huge, but you're big enough. You got 100 employees with typical turnover. That's potentially keeping 20 to 30 more people over the course of a year. Now let's do the math. What's their average salary? Okay, take that number in your mind. The most conservative number I see for replacing an employee has to do right at around 2.5 times their salary to replace that person. The highest number I see is 10x. So just take the average salary in your company times 20 or 30, then times, we'll say 5%, just to give you a nice number there. That gets to be some serious money pretty quickly, doesn't it? Okay, that's the financial capital metric. Let's look over at the human capital metric. You're talking about disruption in workflow. You're talking about lost momentum on projects. You're talking about the team chemistry. Oh, geez, we lost somebody else and they were top talent. Now we got to break in somebody else. All of that's what's walking out that revolving door. So here's what Leandro is telling us. Hiring is where most of us get it wrong. Sorry, that's an uncomfortable truth, right? But hiring is where most of us get it wrong. What I refer to the causality for this, the causality of this is that we are so myopically technical. Now, what does that mean? Myopically technical. We're myopic. It's like we've got blinders on. Look at a racehorse. They're wearing blinders. They can only see right in front of them. And we can only see technical skills. Can the person turn a wrench? Can the person do this? Can a person run spreadsheets? Can a person, whatever technical skills you're after. So we're hyper focused on those technical skills, the certifications that accompany them, the experience they've got in doing that. We are treating culture fit as an afterthought, almost like a redheaded stepchild at a family reunion, as we like to say here in the South, right? Culture fit is an afterthought if we consider it at all. There's one question: can this person do the job? And that drives the conversation into choice. But here's the more important question, and I really want to challenge you to make this your first question. Will this person thrive here? Will this person thrive here? Put that question ahead of, can do the job? Do they have skills? What you're doing is you're making sure the culture fits. You can teach technical skills. You can go out and get certifications, but in terms of culture fit, that's a much harder uphill climb. Matthew Hill was also a guest of mine on the Work Positive podcast. He described for me in his episode about the way smart Turkish companies ask a question of their new employees that highlights the importance of culture fit. Let's listen to Matthew Hill describe it in his own words.
What do you think? We've been doing this for 40 years. We can't see it. What are we doing here? Tell us. Are we doing it right? I did a lot of work in Turkey. And they would always start with something like that. What do you think of Turkey? What do you think of this? What do you think of that?
You hear the invitation in that question. Immediately, they're doing a culture check, right? Even after they've hired you, they're continuing to reinforce culture. So this invitation question, what do you see? What do you think? It accomplishes two things really simultaneously. First of all, it's signaling to that new employee, your perspective matters. You're more than a pair of hands and feet. You're a pair of eyes that can see what we insiders are blind to here. And secondly, it surfaces genuine improvements. And you see how that's beyond technical skills. This new hire is noticing inefficiencies that we veterans might have stopped seeing years ago in our company. They are asking the question, why do we do it this way? And they're asking it about processes that frankly haven't been questioned in years and years and years. Now, why does this work so well? Here's how Matthew explained to me why this works so well.
They were lowering their own power with a bit of vulnerability, which made you feel better and gave you just a little bit more confidence. And you had permission to speak. It was very clever. So it was diplomatic and warm and multifunctional. They were literally looking for the feedback and the hard truth, and sometimes you gave it, but they were encouraging you to join.
Attraction to fit culture requires that we understand our culture and are growing the kind of culture we want, and that makes it easier to hire right and to hire out of an attraction beyond technical skills, but to a culture fit. So it's a bifold process. It's like two sides of the same coin, okay? So if you're attracting to fit culture, the A in retain, that begs the question, what kind of culture do you have? So that's our retain action step for this particular item, attract to fit culture. You see why this one's so important when I set you up a moment ago. So let me give you 3 questions to ask to help give definition to your culture. What I want you to do is get your leadership team together, and it's important to start with your leadership team. Ask them to answer these questions honestly. I know that requires psychological safety, right? Answer these questions honestly. The first question is, what is it really to work here? Not what we hope it's like to work here, what we think it's like to work here, what we wish it was like to work here. No, what's it really like to work here? Then secondly, ask them who thrives here. And it's okay to say, well, Susie does, and here's why, and here's why. So it's okay to attach it to people because you're talking to your leadership team. And then thirdly, the converse of that is who struggles here? Who's struggling in this kind of culture? All right. So those 3 questions are really important. Why? Because they reveal patterns, and those patterns are your culture. You can hire for fit as you articulate those responses very clearly. And when you hire for fit, that's your best line of defense against turnover. So which of these 3 questions, put in the comments, 1, 2, or 3, which one of these questions is most important for you to ask your leadership team right now in order to retain top talent and attract to fit culture well? Is it 1, 2, or 3? And Shelby, I appreciate you being live with us today and putting your numbers in for these comments. Thanks so much. Culture fit, again, is so important because literally you're stopping the revolving door as they're coming in the front door, and you're retaining top talent today with every candidate who's going to walk through that front door with you. Okay. All right. So the R in retain is for what? Realign to retain, and we're realigning and balancing that equation of financial capital metrics and human capital metrics. The E in retain is for what? Empathize to lead with heart. We're taking curious breaths and we're asking better questions, 5 kinds of questions as opposed to why. The T is take it to the limit. We're really maximizing our relationships there, and that curious breath allows us to have enough grace to create some space. And then the A just talked about is the attract to fit the culture. So what is the I in retain all about? The I in retain is for integrity. Integrity has to be a part of the structure of your culture. So you're creating what I like to call a purpose-driven culture. When you have integrity in the structure of your purpose-driven culture, you literally can weather any storm that your company is assaulted by, and your team and your company are assaulted by storms every day, right? Integrity in a work positive culture really connects team members to something that's larger than themselves and has greater meaning and significance than just their roles. So they see themselves fitting into the structure of the company. And yet simultaneously, each person is responsible for their contribution to that something larger. So I see my piece in the puzzle and I see how I fit into making the picture complete. It's at this intersection of, I understand my contribution to the larger. It's at that intersection that the essential nature of accountability emerges. Now, my definition of accountability is putting just enough pressure on someone to bring out the best in them. And that's what Jeffrey Klubeck talked about on his episode of the Work Positive podcast. When integrity is in that structure, it's a part of putting just enough pressure on them to bring out the best in them. And yet so many of our cultures just aren't set up to understand this positive role of accountability. Here's the way Jeffrey Klubeck talked about accountability.
My point is, when we're teaching accountability, Dr. Joe, we're talking about integrity, but that's Trojan horse, because everybody wants integrity. Everybody wants to associate themselves. But if I'm doing public speaking and say, hey, how many of you believe you have integrity?
A lot of peer pressure there.
Yeah, but 100% of the room will raise their hand. And now that, never mind how I got, all right, repeat after me. I swear not to shoot the keynote speaker in 40 minutes. Right? And then I don't want to offend you. Hang on, let's make sure we're talking about the same thing.
But
and then
I do
go
want
on
to
and
offend you to make you think about
I want to hold up the mirror. I want to activate the attention that they can pay to themselves. But we know that accountability will always feel like an attack when we're not ready to be 100% responsible for our own behavior.
What Jeffrey's saying is when those accountability conversations go sideways and people start to get defensive and making excuses, they play the blame game. It's not always because that person is difficult. The culture missed preparing them to receive accountability as a gift, bringing out the best in you, as opposed to an assault. So we start backfilling when we're not prepared. Jeffrey's solution is to make accountability a team value as a part of the accountability structure. Here's the way he described accountability as a part of the integrity structure on his Work Positive podcast episode.
And if teams and cultures can share this language, share the model, and come together and encourage each other in safe dialogue, safe spaces, and share their integrity game answers with each other, right? So you can play it as a team. Hey, we are a team. We're a collection of individuals. We all have our answers to our own integrity game, but now let's play it for the team. What's the purpose of the team? What's the purpose of the project? What are our competitive advantages? We have the potential to what? And so then hopefully people can see where their individual answers integrate.
Accountability flows best, Jeffrey says, from the shared purpose rather than from top-down pressure. So there's a shared purpose that we have as a team, and accountability flows best from that as opposed from top-down pressure. As it does, then accountability transforms from something people avoid into something they embrace. Again, they see accountability as a gift because accountability is a part of the integrity, which is in the structure. And that then becomes a competitive advantage for our team as well as the company. So here's your retain action step for the I in retain: integrity to structure. Again, get your leadership team together. I'm assuming you meet with them on a regular basis. So as you're gathering, get some answers to these questions about integrity. Just do it the next time you're together. So first question, and yes, we're going to invite you to drop a 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the comments again as to which question you think is most important to ask now. So first, when our organization succeeds, who benefits besides the shareholders? Secondly, what communities do we serve? Thirdly, what causes do we advance? And fourth, what legacy are we building? Man, those are 4 powerful questions, aren't they? Then take it from the leadership team and communicate it out to the entire team. Here's what you're doing. You're helping each person see how their daily work contributes to something meaningful. Again, integrity in the structure. Accountability becomes a gift because it's inside the Trojan horse of integrity, right? I really want myself to be connected to something meaningful beyond my paycheck. That's what Jeffrey's after here in terms of accountability. So when your people understand the who that benefits from their effort, they develop the kind of commitment to you and to the team and the company that no competitor can ever poach. You're stopping your revolving door. That's integrity at its finest, and that's how it stops that revolving door. So go ahead and drop a 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the comments as to which one of those questions is most important for you right now. The I in retain is for integrity to structure. Create a purpose-driven culture that can weather any storm. So you can step out of that storm of the blame game, for instance, and see accountability as a gift to each of you. So the R in retain is for realign the financial capital metric and the human capital metric. The E is for empathize with, as you lead with heart. Therein lies your opportunity for a curious breath to be taken. The T is for take it to the limit. Just take those relationships into a grace create space. You reverse the polarity of the toxicity in your culture. The A is for attract to culture fit. Hiring well for culture fit first really solves a ton of headaches. Save you a lot of money on pain medicine. The I is for integrity to structure. What's the N in retain? The final piece of our framework is 90 days. You've got 90 days for your new hires to grow roots in the company. And here we're talking about onboarding and being prepared for new persons to join the culture of your company. Ryan England is a great friend. In fact, he and I are enjoying a Zoom call later this afternoon just to hang out some more. He told me on his episode of the Work Positive podcast about a young woman who was just entering the workforce. So I want you to think new college graduate, dressed to impress, first day at her new company. Let's listen to Ryan as he tells this story. He does a great job of telling it.
I was just talking to somebody. He was telling me about his daughter. And he said his daughter's just entering the workforce. And so she's learning the hard way how bad employers can be.
Ooh, bless her heart, as we say.
So she goes to work at this one company and she shows up on day one and they like a banner and they're excited. No.
What?
They look, she looks around and she goes, I'm here for my first day. And the person's like, who are you?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I'm here for my first day. They told me we're excited. This person hired me.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that person doesn't work out of this office.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, so what do I need to do? They're like, why don't you sit there and we'll figure it out? 3 days later, they fired her because she wasn't performing well.
Did you hear that? 3 days later, they fired her for not performing well. Okay, maybe that's a dramatic story. Maybe you've not had that experience, but she has. And the sad reality is there are far more people who are experiencing that than you know, but not if you have a work positive culture company, right? Because you understand that in order to retain top talent, you have 90 days to root them. Now, what's to happen in those 90 days? I'll tell you how you can find out more about what you can do in those 90 days in just a moment. But Chuck Cooper is a dear friend, lives down in Charlotte, North Carolina. We get to see each other on at least a semi-regular basis in person. Absolutely love Chuck. You've heard him on the Work Positive podcast a couple of times. He shared a practice with me on his most recent episode. And this is how it separates good companies from great companies, also from sorry companies like the one we just heard about. As to what happens in those first 90 days, here's the way Chuck describes it.
One of the things that I've seen that's been really beneficial is when a new person comes to a company, is that the CEO of the company or maybe the highest ranking executive that's on that location to meet with that new employee and to talk specifically about the culture of the organization, to be able to explain what the culture is. And so if you're not willing to sit down and have that conversation and really stress the importance of the culture with your new people, you will have a higher potential of losing that employee the first 6 to 12 months.
Okay, let's think about the math. 20 minutes with the CEO or the highest ranking official on that site. 20 minutes. Well, let's say that person's time is worth $1,000 an hour. Okay. So let's take a third of that. We'll say for round numbers, $330 for 20 minutes versus, remember our equation, what is it? 2.5 times is the conservative estimate, up to 10 times an annual salary. So let's say that person's making $50,000 a year. Let's go 2.5 times that. What's that? 125,000 or so. That's what it costs to replace them. So 125,000 versus $300. Friends, that's not fuzzy math. That is good math. So take your highest ranking person on your site, put them in front of that new hire for only 20 minutes, and you stop the revolving door, and it costs you virtually nothing compared to the most conservative estimate for what you're going to face if you don't do it within those first 90 days, right? So here's your retain action step. The N is for 90 days to roots. What you want to do is pay as much attention to onboarding as you do hiring. In fact, I would even recommend paying more attention to onboarding. Map out what a new employee experiences in their first 90 days and get it at a pretty granular level. Here's what we want to happen on the first day. Here's what we want to happen on the first week. Here's what we want to happen in the first month. Don't guess about this now, because you really want to get a temperature on how it's going now, because you got to know where you're starting from to improve it, right? What's the current reality? Max Dupre's Leadership Jazz. I mean, that's classic, right? What's the current reality? What time is it right now in your onboarding process is a good way of thinking about it. So let's ask that, let's find a recent hire, let's shadow them, and let's ask them 4 questions directly. Okay, you ready? Ask them, where were the moments of confusion for you as you came to work here? Secondly, when did you feel lost? Now, notice that's a feeling, because people leave jobs. Why? They don't leave the job, they leave feelings, right? When did you feel lost? Thirdly, what questions went unanswered too long? If you're hiring a guy my age, and if you wait more than 2 hours to give him the key to the men's room, it's going to be a problem, right? Okay, that's funny. But what questions went unanswered too long? Who do I report to? Who do I, how do I get up with IT? These are questions that are real questions. Fourthly, this is so pivotal. When did you feel like you first truly belonged? When did you first feel like you truly belonged? Now, which one of those questions is most important for you to ask new hires right now? Go ahead and drop that comment in there, Shelby. Thanks. Look forward to seeing what you put there. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Which one of those questions can you ask now? Now, what you want to do is, that's your snapshot of your current reality of onboarding. Draw out a 90-day roadmap with clear milestones that fixes any gaps that you discover by asking those 4 questions. Because, friends, when you make the first 90 days about that new hire and help them grow roots in the company, they will make it all about you for years to come. Again, you've stopped that revolving back door and you're retaining top talent. So which one of those questions is most important for you right there? 1, 2, 3, or 4. So that's the final step to stopping the revolving door so that you retain top talent today. That's the N in retain, which is 90 days for Roots. So we've reserved some time for questions and answers, for your comments. Go ahead and begin to put your comments in there. Something that was a key takeaway. I'm always interested in key takeaways. Which one of these 6 items, RETAIN, is most important for you right now? Would be a great comment to make. If there's a question about, hey, Dr. Joey, how do I do blah, 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 put that in there. Again, it's realign to retain, empathize to lead with heart. T is for take it to the limit. The A for attract, fit culture. The I for integrity to structure. And the N is for 90 days to roots. We're growing roots in the first 90 days. So I promised you at the outset an opportunity to get some free gifts. So I got 2 free gifts for you. Here's how you get them. Today's live experience has been based on my latest bestseller, Stop the Revolving Door, How to Retain Top Talent Today. Stop the Revolving Door, and you see a picture of it there. It's absolutely free. I'm not going to send you any chocolate. Okay. Although I wish I could, because that chocolate looks incredibly delicious and I could use a piece right now. Stop the Revolving Door, How to Retain Top Talent. Let me tell you how you get a free copy. First of all, you can go right now to your Amazon account, put in Stop the Revolving Door, Dr. Joey, and it'll bring it right up for you. The Kindle copy is free today. This morning, as I mentioned earlier, it went number 1 in 3 different categories, significant human resources categories. Thank you to all of you who've already picked up your free copy. If you have yet to do that, it's an advantage of being live here, right? You can go get your free copy now. And if you're on your way to a lunch appointment or something like that, and you're listening in the car, it's okay. Take time after lunch to do it. You actually can get them free through, I think it's Saturday, isn't it, Annalisa? So they're free through Saturday. If you're watching the recording though, and you're thinking, oops, I missed it out because it's past February 21, it's okay. I've got your back. Connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a direct message on LinkedIn and just say, hey, Dr. J, what about that free copy of Stop the Revolving Door? I'll send it to you as a PDF and you can pull it right into your Kindle and read it just like you would if you downloaded it today. Okay. So that's the first free gift. My gift to you, Dr. Joey, why are you doing this? Why are you giving away free books? I am just so passionate about improving people's lives and company sustainability that I just give away books. It's just a part of who I am. It's as much part of who I am as my brown eyes and my no hair. So Stop the Revolving Doors is yours free. Stop the Revolving Door is yours free today on Kindle, or DM me on LinkedIn and I'll send you a copy. If you're on YouTube, just go over to LinkedIn and connect with me there, or you can drop a comment in the YouTube thing there. How do I get my free copy if you're watching this after February 21st? Okay, the second free gift quickly is at workpositive.today. You want to go there right now or as soon as you can. This is up and available for you, workpositive.today. Go there, and I've got a free Work Positive culture assessment for you. It's only about 13 or 14 items. It'll take you about 3 minutes to answer them, and I send you over the next 6 weeks strategies and tactics that you can implement immediately as part of your Work Positive culture journey. Okay. All right. Shelby, let me get to yours here now. Currently, we're focused on the N, 90 Days to Roots. Man, that's a beautiful place. You're formalizing your new hire process. You're actually, okay. You're pre-hire through month 6 oriented. Man, I love that. That really, Shelby, shows me that you get it and you understand. It's almost like a seamless, I think of it as a seamless bolt cloth. From first listing, you're revealing your culture as a Work Positive culture. And then from the hire, the culture fit is so important. And then you're being consistent right on through your onboarding process. Man, that's beautiful. I absolutely love the way that you're doing that. Keep going and go right now and get yourself a copy of the book, Shelby. You've been a great participant today. I so appreciate you for being here, man. And thanks so much. Look forward to interacting with you more through these. So that's our time together today, our live experience, whether you've been on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I think eventually we're going to wind up on TikTok too for what it's worth, right? If that's your format. We started out here on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's an amazing place to be. Please reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn. We send out the Work Positive newsletter weekly. You get prompts about the podcast. If you enjoy the podcast that you see here that I've talked about today, in the book, Stop the Revolving Door, there's a QR code if you get the paperback, if you prefer that. But there's also hyperlinks in the Kindle. You can just click on those, and we've got a page prepared for you to go to. All the podcasts are there, or you can just go and like us on your favorite podcast platform. And we're out there weekly with amazing people that I'm learning so much from about how to create a work positive culture. Thank you, Work Positive Culture community. I love you. I appreciate the gift of your time. And I look forward to next month when we get to be together again. Take good care. I'm so grateful you joined our conversation about creating positive work cultures that grow people and profits. Connect with me directly on LinkedIn today. Just search for Dr. Joey Fawcett, or you can click the link in your show notes. When you send your connection request, mention you're a Work Positive Podcast listener, because I want to give you a free digital copy of my Work Positive Team Edition book. It's a $19.95 value, but I want to share it with you free because it contains practical strategies that I personally use with clients to transform toxic work environments into thriving cultures. We explore in that book how to create a positive work culture, and we do so again in every episode of this podcast. Our LinkedIn connection allows you and me to directly talk about your specific challenges, so feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn. I personally read and respond to all those messages because I genuinely care about your work positive success. So go to LinkedIn and let's connect. Remember to mention you're a podcast listener to receive your free Work Positive Team Edition book. I look forward to seeing you on our next episode of the Work Positive Podcast.